What do we think of Rahul Gandhi's speech yesterday in the parliament on the budget presented by the finance minister? For a while, or all through yesterday, I thought I would refrain from making a comment on the speech. But as I woke up this morning, the thought struck me with some force that my friends who share this space with me would expect my response to that speech, and therefore I decided to change my mind, and therefore I'm back with you with this video, which briefly analyzes Rahul's speech in the parliament yesterday. But I will attempt this from a very limited perspective. I'm going to look at it from the point of view of the youth of India, and within that, particularly those who would be interested in learning the art of public speaking. One of the ironies in the contemporary politics of India is that a person who has been ridiculed for nearly 15 years as an intellectual dud, a papu, is today becoming a model of public speaking, and I'm somewhat competent to do this video. As you know, I too have had a somewhat distinguished career as a public speaker. So nothing to write home about, but I do have a track record, and I have taken the trouble to study this art in a scientific manner. Therefore, from that perspective, I'm in a position to offer you, the youth of India, certain insights that I believe would be of use to you. Now, if you want to, and I'm going to draw your attention to 5 specific aspects of Rahul's speech yesterday from which you can learn and improve your art of public speaking. By the way, the art of public speaking is useful not only to the youth but to everyone, because whenever we talk to somebody, we have to keep improving in our capacity to articulate ourselves. In fact, we can bring a lot of enrichment to life and relationships if only we can pay attention to how we express ourselves. So, public speaking is an aspect of this general category of expressing oneself. It is useful when you take an interview, it's useful when you enter into a conversation with someone, so on and so forth. Now, as I said, I'm going to highlight 5 aspects or 5 features of Rahul Gandhi's speech yesterday from which young people can learn a great deal. First of all, Rahul Gandhi contextualized whatever he wanted to say. Now, when you make a public speech, you have to handle ideas and themes. Now, ideas and themes are abstract, and ordinary people have a lot of difficulty in dealing with abstract ideas. Now, I've been in the world of academia, therefore, I tend to deal with abstract elements, but that's a pernicious aspect of my training as an academic. I'm trying, of course, to grow out of it, but my academic background still hangs heavy on me. But Rahul Gandhi is a much better learner than I am. Therefore, he has learned to contextualize his ideas to an extent seen never before in the last 15-20 years. Now, let me give you an example. Rahul Gandhi wants to convey the idea that the total life of India is today dominated by 6 people, and they are misusing their excessive and unwarranted influence, and this is working to the detriment of the people of India. This is the idea he wants to share. Now, if you put this idea in this manner, it will have very little impact on those who listen to him. So, what does he do? He creates a context. What's that context? He says, long time ago in Haryana, something very important happened. A big battle took place. He's referring to Mahabharata, the Kurukshetra battle. And there, a person called Abhimanyu was done to death. How was he done to death? Chakravyu, was used against him. And he, of course, goes on to describe very briefly what Chakravyu is. And then he says 6 people at the core of it played the decisive role in killing Abhimanyu, and he names them. Then he says Chakravyu has got another name, and that is Padmavyu. Padma is lotus, so immediately connects it to the symbol of BJP. And it says that in the Padmavyu Chakravyu of India in the 21st century, there are these 6 people who are playing the same role that their counterparts in Mahabharata played in killing Abhimanyu. And he mentioned them, I don't have to mention them, and he mentioned them. The person most rattled was the Honorable Speaker of the Lok Sabha for understandable reasons. Therefore, I am not going to explain that reason either. Now, the impact that presentation has is very different from a merely a formal, verbal, conceptual presentation. The context imparts an electrifying power to the idea. And in the context enables Rahul Gandhi, the context he himself so deliberately created, enables Rahul Gandhi to imbue his idea, his words with electrifying power. So this is the first lesson in public speaking that we can learn from his speech yesterday. The second lesson that we can note is that he not only contextualized, he also used the other similar technique of concretizing ideas. Concretize an idea. Make an idea assume life, flesh and blood. For example, he was trying to communicate the idea that the real people of India, the people who work very hard, the people who contribute to national wealth, are being left out of the India story, and nobody cares for them, and nobody pays any attention to their aches and pains, their sorrows and their sufferings. Now, if you put it in this manner, it sounds very jaded and very trite. No one will take it very seriously. So what does he do? He concretizes it. He says, you know, the other day I was returning from Sultanpur. He makes a deliberate reference to Sultanpur because he was dragged there through a court case on the charge that he said something defamatory about Amit Shah. We shall wait and see what comes of that case. So on my way back from Sultanpur, I stopped at the shop of a mochi, a cobbler. And in my conversation, I asked him, you know, how do you find yourself in life and all that? He says, you know, I have one sadness, and that is the only person from whom I saw a glimmer of respect for me is my father, nobody else. I'm a despised creature in this world. So the shoes and the footwear he makes, will be worn by gentlemen and ladies who will hold him in contempt. So that's one idea is introduced. The second episode he used is, he says, I visited a man who makes furniture. I asked him, what was his foremost complaint? He said, you know, I make this beautiful furniture and take it to a showroom. The furniture I make is allowed into the showroom, but I'm never allowed to step into the showroom. The heartbreak of the man. Now, Rahul Gandhi is suddenly presenting a reality which is, this is real, it exists. Nobody can deny that it is no one can deny that it exists. Nobody can allege that he's inventing these things. These are not fictitious, it is real. But these are kept very, very tightly hidden. No one articulates it. So he suddenly upstages a kind of artificially contrived image of India as a glittering country where, you know, great things are happening and we are all poised for a 5 trillion economy and we are becoming world guru and all kinds of things. But there is this small little reality which serves as the pinprick to the balloon, and suddenly the whole thing looks very, very different. That's the second strategy. The third strategy he uses is that he is very particular to retain attention. See, even 10 years ago, when Rahul Gandhi was speaking, I found it difficult to continue to listen to him for a spell of time. But yesterday, when he was speaking, I did not know how time passed. And when he finished his speech and I looked at my watch, I was shocked to find that his speech had taken 50 minutes. I did not know how 50 minutes passed, which means that he succeeded eminently in retaining my attention. And I am a bit impatient. I find it difficult to listen to people for too long, though I expect others to listen to me, and that's a hypocrisy I need to grow out of. But Rahul Gandhi retained my attention unwaveringly for full 50 minutes, which means that there is something in him which is extraordinarily powerful in retaining attention. And perhaps I should maintain two aspects of this. One is there's always an element of surprise in his presentation. And to illustrate this, let me say that is why he pulls out of his file from time to time certain documents and certain photographs and certain pictures which rattles everyone. So people are really in a state of anxiety. What is this man going to pull out next time? What will he hold up? So the Speaker of the Lok Sabha is particularly concerned about it, and it would seem that people who are managing the cameras are very clearly instructed that nothing of these visuals should be ever beamed to the country, and therefore they are very alert, they are very efficient at their work, and they immediately cut off Rahul Gandhi, and the camera would focus on the speaker's face rather than anywhere else. But the point is that we as viewers and listeners, we are always in a state of keen expectation and eager anticipation. Something will happen, something will happen, something is going to happen next minute. Now this is amazing. And the power of it is writ large on the face of the treasury benches. They don't know quite how to handle him. They don't know what to expect of him the next moment. Now, therefore, our response to Rahul Gandhi is further intensified and enriched by this nervousness and nervous anxiety on the part of the treasury benches. So together, it constitutes a very gripping scenario, and I am afraid it works amazingly to Rahul Gandhi's benefit. That's one aspect of how he retains our attention as viewers. The second thing is he deploys a very subtle sense of humor. I don't know if you have noticed this. People may not usually associate Rahul Gandhi with a sense of humor. Surely he does not indulge in a kind of low comedy, what's called slapstick humor. He uses what Sigmund Freud, in that very interesting book, Wit and Its Relationship to the Unconscious, refers to as wit. And he says that wit is a product of intelligence, whereas humor does not require that much intelligence from its creators. So Rahul Gandhi is showing a very high level of intellectuality, wit, in his presentations. And yesterday's speech would leave you with an enduring image. The image of Nirmala Sitharaman as the finance minister, just trying to cover her face with both her hands, because a very, very powerful point of attack was flavored with a sense of wit that sort of made all members of the treasury benches wonder what to do with it. So you do this kind of thing only when you are at a loss, you are at your wit's end. Why are you at your wit's end? Because somebody else's wit has hit you. And that created a lot of laughter. So even in terms of the manifest effect of what he was speaking, it's not once or twice, but several times laughter broke out without Rahul Gandhi laughing. If you have noticed, he doesn't laugh at all. He just goes on business-like with his presentation, but there is a sense of humor. That sense of humor enables us to stay engaged with what he's saying, and therefore, he as a public speaker is able to retain the attention of his audience for any amount of time, and that's a tremendous achievement. And finally, I've dealt with 4 items so far. One is, I said, he contextualizes his ideas. Secondly, he concretizes his ideas. Third, I said, he retains the attention of his audience. And there I mentioned 2 important aspects. One is his sense of humor, and the other is his the element of surprise that he weaves into his presentation, and mainly the use of visuals and photographs, and all of which he knows are going to be objected to, but he still brings them. Why? It's a strategy, and it's working eminently. And the more he is prevented from using this, the greater the effect of showing it even for a fraction of a second. Therefore, in a discussion that for the first time in so many years that India Today organized, no other channel organized, on Rahul Gandhi's speech in the parliament yesterday, that channel froze on this particular visual and showed Rahul Gandhi holding aloft this picture of Nirmala Sitharaman with the Babus who helped her in cobbling together the budget continuously for a period of time, which was quite astonishing. That channel would never have done it, but for its realization that Rahul Gandhi is going leaps and bounds in public popularity, especially popularity among the youth of India. Therefore, the media world is now forced against their will to pay attention, to pay some heed to Rahul Gandhi. So, now let me come to the final point, the 5th point, namely, I think to me the greatest strength of Rahul Gandhi's art of public speaking is that his choice of material and the way he packages his material shows a very clear, deep and inspired understanding of his adversaries, an understanding of the strengths of his adversaries. I'll give you 2 or 3 examples. Rahul Gandhi realizes that the weapon or the strategy most effectively used by Narendra Modi and his associates in keeping India under control is fear. So he already in the previous speech introduced the slogan, Daro mat, Darao mat. Do not fear and do not allow somebody else to frighten you. Daro mat, Darao mat. Do not frighten anyone, and if someone tries to frighten you, do not give in to fear. Daro mat, Darao mat. So that is the strength. He identifies, it's not my analysis, this is what Rahul Gandhi identifies as the strength of his adversary. They know how to use the weapon of fear with telling effect, extreme, devastating effect on an entire nation, and how to keep it under bit and bridle. The second strength on which his opposite camp is banking is uniformity. Uniformity. The third strength is the arbitrary equation of Hindutva with Hinduism. These are the 3 things from which, according to Rahul Gandhi's analysis, his adversaries are drawing all their strength and electoral dividends. So what does he do? He tries to counter fear. Why he does so, I'll explain a little later. And in the previous speech, he has done a lot of work on it. He invoked all the religions and proved to the audience that every religion gives you this exhortation, do not fear, do not fear. And in particular, he focused on the Abhaya Mudra of Lord Shiva. And he created a climate of opinion decisively against the use of fear as a technique for mass control or control of over a population. As regards uniformity, he presents the counter paradigm of diversity, plurality, and the celebration thereof, which is certainly more akin to life, to nature, and to history. Life cannot be a domain of uniformity. The only domain of uniformity is death. Life is a sphere of diversity, variety, and infinite, inexhaustible diversity and variety, which constitutes the beauty and richness of life. And as regards Hindutva and Hinduism, he emphasizes with sledgehammer emphasis that there's a contradiction between Hinduism and Hindutva. And Hindutva is a contradiction of everything that is good and beautiful in Hinduism. The very soul of Hinduism is corrupted by Hindutva. That is his argument. So he has taken, or he is taking, his adversaries on their strengths, not on their weaknesses. And that is a very, very important thing in the art of public speaking. When, suppose you're participating in a debate, your presentation will be as powerful as how you anticipate the main arguments of your adversary on the other side and how effectively you neutralize it. Now, at this time, I'm reminded of one of the greatest speakers of all time, the Roman Seneca, Seneca, Seneca. He, together with Demosthenes of Athens, are considered the two greatest exemplars of public speaking, the art of public speaking in ancient times. Demosthenes and Seneca. Now, it is said of Seneca that in his public speaking, he would set apart 75% of the total time to anticipating and countering the strongest arguments of his adversaries, which means that he pays particular attention to understanding the strengths, I emphasize the word strengths of his adversaries, not their weaknesses. Whereas what Modi and company are doing all the time is to identify Rahul Gandhi in terms of some presumed weakness. They still think of him as Papu. I don't know on what basis. They can continue to do so, but it will do them terrible disservice. In fact, they will disable themselves in relation to handling Rahul Gandhi effectively if they don't now switch over from seeing him in terms of some presumed weaknesses to seeing him in terms of his real strengths. These are some of his strengths that I have identified. I hope the substance of this video is of some value even to the BJP camp. Though, if they are foolish, they will attack me for revealing the truth, which is what has become second nature to them. So I don't expect anything better than what I've experienced so far. So this is very important. If you want to improve your art of public speaking, please cultivate the habit of taking the person on the other side, person arguing on the other side, your antagonist, your opposite side in the debate, seriously in terms of his or her strength, and then formulate your arguments in order to neutralize the strong points of the other. This is extremely important, and I cannot exaggerate its importance, and this is an area, this is an aspect in which I'm afraid the BJP camp is weak. They have to improve in this respect. Now, let me conclude by saying that while listening to Rahul Gandhi yesterday, I was frequently reminded of a great name in the history of education. He's a German diplomat cum educationist. Very likely his name is familiar to you. His name is Friedrich Wilhelm von Humboldt, Humboldt, Humboldt. He is the founder of the Humboldt University of Berlin. He has written very stimulatingly on education. And he was one of the seminal influences on me in my life as a teacher in higher education. And particularly his idea of the goal of education influenced me a great deal. Therefore, let me just mention it briefly. He said, the goal of education must be the highest and harmonious development of all the faculties of an individual into a complete and consistent whole. I stated it as slowly as I can so that it may sink. Let me repeat it. The goal of education must be the highest and most harmonious development of all the faculties of a person into a complete and consistent whole. Clear? Now, having stated this, and Humboldt states this in contrast to the attitude that prevailed in his time, which was people assumed that the purpose of education was to nurture the youth of the country in traditional mores, social values, attitudes, outlooks, so on and so forth. In other words, the socialization of the youth, and to nurture them within the framework of the status quo. So Humboldt posited or presented or projected a goal which is different from what was the entrenched idea at that time. But then he said, if this essential educational goal is to be realized, two important conditions have to be preserved, ensured in all their purity and fullness. First, he said, is freedom. Freedom. And freedom and fear are incompatible. So the reason why Rahul Gandhi harps on the idea of on the curse of freedom that has been inflicted on India is that this will ruin a country, this will freeze the intellectual and human development of the people, it will do enormous harm to every citizen in this country, not merely to its immediate targets, but the unleashing of fear corrupts the total atmosphere in a society, and everyone will be affected, not only consciously but also unconsciously. The human mind, human personality cannot develop in a society riddled by fear or frozen in fear. It's a very serious problem, and that problem was highlighted by Humboldt, the great German thinker on education. The second thing he said is, if the multifarious, all-rounded development of the human person is to develop through education, is to be achieved through education, then variety and diversity must be the very soul of the educational experience of the learning process. So, the destruction of variety and diversity in the interest of promoting homogeneity is extremely harmful to the development of the citizen. And therefore, the culture of homogeneity that BJP, the Sangh Parivar, is sponsoring, necessarily with the accompaniment of violence, coercion, sometimes brutal coercion, legal coercion, sometimes even the coercion of non-state actors, as in anti-love jihad gangs and so on and so forth. He says this attack on the diversity and variety which constitutes the beauty and richness of India, and which is a necessary nourishment for the development of every individual, will do enormous harm to the development of India. And therefore, the people of India need to wake up regarding the deleterious, harmful, destructive, disabling, decapitating influence of the destruction of diversity and variety and the promotion of this uniformity and homogeneity, which is quite different from the idea of India's unity in diversity. Unity can be achieved only through diversity, where uniformity militates against diversity, which Rahul Gandhi says, and says quite rightly. And this is where he is in complete agreement with, I don't know if he knows it, in terms of thinking, the richness of his content. He is one with Wilhelm von Humboldt, the great German educationist. So I think Rahul Gandhi has flagged some of the most important issues of contemporary India, and he has presented it in such a beautiful manner that, to me, his speech yesterday constitutes a classic case study in the art of public speaking, and I thought it would be worthwhile to draw the attention of the youth of India to this aspect of what transpired yesterday. I want to thank all of you for your patient attention. Jai Hind.